Path of Exile 1's 3.26 update is finally on its way. We've had no mention of any extended delays, and just a few days ago we got the very first teaser for 3.26, which I believe indicates that the scheduled release window of June is still very much the plan. So what does this mean for PoE 1? Well, it's going to get its first League release in over 10 months. The longest absence of primary updates since the League system was first introduced all the way back in 2013 with Onslaught League. Ever since then, GGG have been consistently shipping updates and reliable patches for Path of Exile 1, and this reliable release cycle became the bread and butter of their marketing strategy to make PoE 1 successful and attract a wider audience over time. And that's exactly what it did. In fact, Settlers League was the most successful PoE 1 league to date in terms of player peak, drawing the largest concurrent player count on Steam, and Settlers even had a higher player retention than Affliction League 2 weeks in, an impressive feat considering just how successful Affliction was. But here's the thing, Settlers League launched in July 2024, and in just 2 months we'll be in the middle of July 2025, and Settlers is still the current league. So, what went wrong? How is it that a live service game that had been consistently growing over time, a 10-plus-year-old game by the way, that's almost unheard of, how is it that the updates just abruptly stopped? Well, it's hard to believe that it was less than 2 years ago when we all thought that PoE 2 was still going to be update 4.0 for Path of Exile 1. Until
Path of Exile 1 and 2 will be separate with their own mechanics, balance, endgames, and leagues.
Now, we all know what's happened in the time between then and now. Path of Exile 2 has released into early access after several delays, and Path of Exile 1 has had some of its best leagues of all time. Trial of the Ancestors, Affliction, Settlers, and, well, we don't talk about Necropolis. And then, the updates for PoE 1 just stopped. And they stopped because all of GGG's resources were being dedicated to PoE 2. And whilst this was the first major sign of PoE 2's impact on PoE 1, we can actually look back and see that this has been going on quietly in the background for much longer. You see, we used to get consistent 3-month releases, and then around the time of Sentinel or Calandra League, the average league cycle tipped up to 4 months instead of 3. So we went from 4 league releases per year to 3. And that's not the only thing that we used to get consistently for PoE 1 either, because we also used to have one major league launch once a year, which also included an Atlas expansion. Cirrus and the Elder Slayers in 3.9, Maven and her boss Gauntlets in 3.13, and the Eater and Exarch Pinnacle fights in 3.17. And then 3.21 came with no Atlas expansion, and I remember thinking that makes sense because ExileCon is just around the corner, and surely they're saving it for that. But then ExileCon came around, and 3.22 was announced, and there's no Atlas expansion. In fact, it's crazy to think that we're almost 10 leagues into the current Atlas expansion, which was first introduced in 3.17 in February 2022. We've had the same Atlas for over 3 years. And I can't complain too much about that because the current Atlas system is really good. There's a reason why many of the more recent leagues, Sentinel, Affliction, Sanctum and the likes, there's a reason why those leagues are so memorable. And that's because the base game is just so good. The fundamental core of Atlas progression is so good. But with that said, I think that PoE 1's upcoming 3.26 update may finally be the Atlas expansion that has been missing for these past few years. And there's a few good reasons for that. The first is the current state of PoE 1. If we're to be completely honest for a moment, GGG have neglected PoE 1, and it's unfortunate that that's how it's gone, but that's the cold, hard truth. This is the game that put them on the map. This is the game that, through all of its success, has funded PoE 2's development, and this is the game that so many people still enjoy. And yet, it's been left in the darkness. Player sentiment in regards to GGG and PoE 1 and its future has been at an all-time low. And now is the time when GGG need a serious win in regards to PoE 1. If what they say is true and they do want to develop both games at the same time, now is the time to prove it. It really feels like PoE 1 is in this sink or swim state right now, and a big successful league will go a long way to restoring some of that goodwill that has been eroded away over the past year or so. Now, reason 2 is that the best time for an Atlas expansion was last league, or the league before that one, or indeed the one before that one. But those are in the past now, and the next best time is now. It's entirely possible, and I think even quite likely, that the next Atlas expansion for PoE 1 was and has been mapped out for quite some time, but the resources simply haven't been available to deliver that update in a timely fashion, and as we got closer and closer to PoE 2's launch, the resources dried up to the point where this was impossible to put together. It was all hands on deck for PoE 2, and that makes sense. But we're now 6 months removed from PoE 2's early access launch, and the early access is beginning to look a lot more like a marathon rather than a sprint to a 1.0 launch. And so this is going to be the first real opportunity that GGG have to put their focus back on PoE 1 and lay out their vision of developing both games in tandem. Many of us have been skeptical as to whether they can pull this off, myself included, but part of me believes that they can, and 3.26 will be a major step towards that goal. Now, the third and final reason for me is this teaser right here. There's just absolutely no way that GGG didn't imagine that people would immediately link this teaser to an Atlas expansion. So let's take a quick look at the teaser in detail. Now, over on the Reddit, we actually get a bit more context on this image, as the title of the post is Journal Entry My Purpose. So this reads, "For the first time in my life, I've found meaning, purpose. A path has revealed itself, winding inexorably towards the Atlas. There are secrets buried there, I know it. Secrets I was born to find. The trail is set, and I must follow it to the originator." Now, we don't know exactly who is writing this. I think the Shaper makes the most sense, and we're reading his past journal entries from a long time ago, but it could be a returning Zana or a new character entirely. And we also don't know who or what the originator is. But this teaser just screams Atlas expansion to me. It's very likely Zana or Shaper related, and I think if they're bringing Zana back, there's just no way they're going to do this in a random league. With that said, they did do Galandra League, but we don't talk about that. And there's also this originator character. We don't know who or what that is, but it sounds like it could be some kind of new boss, maybe with a different name. And I don't know, guys. This teaser for me, it just has Atlas expansion written all over it. What do you guys think? Am I on industrial grade copium over here, or is there just no shot that they would put this kind of teaser out if they didn't have something big planned? Let me know by commenting below. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.